We're living for the moment now, we're one with the world. I can't lose this feeling I get. My heart's in the right place, and so is my soul, yeah. I won't take no excuses for it. Love it, need it, live it. I feel like something's missing when I do not have it. I feel it in my bones, gotta find my space. These emotions on my face, taking a toll, I gotta pay it forward. I'll give it all that I can. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah, no what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't, baby. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Lifting me, lifting you. Can't go alone, let's do by two. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what he say. Listen to your heartbeat like it still bleed. A little bit of hope, yeah, it's what we still need. Say a little prayer for the moment. Give what you got, just go in. Can't hold you back if you own it. Live your life like a chosen. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. You know what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't, baby. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Know what I need, I know what I need. You find the keys,
Chasing love in an empty bar. Pour a drink till I make it past. The midnight hour seems to come and go, but I know. Walk on up with a drink in hand, sipping mixers cause you can. And all the lights begin to switch off. You're chasing the light, holding on for life, fading out, chasing chasing the night. Hotel rooms and city squares, champagne bottles, drum and snare. The sights and cities seem to fall away when you stay. Locked in love for a night or two, losing sleep just to get a few. Day to day you wanna stay out, you're chasing the light, holding on for life, feeling the high, chasing the light,
We're living for the moment now, we're one with the world. I can't lose this feeling I get. My heart's in the right place, and so is my soul, yeah. I won't take no excuses for it. I want it, love it, need it, live it. I feel like something's missing when I do not have it. I feel it in my bones, gotta find my space. These emotions on my face, taking a toll, I gotta pay it forward. I'll give it all that I can. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah, no what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. If I won't, oh, baby. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Lifting me, lifting you. Can't go alone, let's do by two. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what to say. Listen to your heartbeat like it still bleed. A little bit of hope, yeah, it's what we still need. Say a little prayer for the moment. Give what you got, just go in. Can't hold you back if you own it. Live your life like you're chosen. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah, no what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. If I won't, oh, baby, just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Know what I need, I know what I
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Racing Club International, and we are here on a Friday evening to round out the final round of our ICGT Enduro Championship, and it has been a phenomenal season so far, and we are doing the AM split once again this evening, and this evening I'll be joined by my fellow commentators Thomas Crabb and Connell Courtney. Starting off with you, Thomas, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely splendid. Thank you very much, George. Excited to round off the end of our AM Championship. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like it's absolutely flown by, even though it's a bi-weekly championship. I think doing it every week is, it's been really enjoyable, and it'd be sad to send these guys off, but it's going to be a good end of the championship, George.
It is indeed, and of course the final round here, round 5, taking place at Suzuka, so that should give us plenty of racing action on track. Talking about Suzuka, Connell Courtney, a man very familiar with this circuit, having done 10 hours previously. Connell, good to have you back with us, and nice to have you along for the final round here this evening.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It seems as though these drivers might be breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief in comparison to a fortnight ago, because it really was a race of attrition at Bathurst. A lot of mistakes being made, so a bit more runoff than the mountain circuit. So this weekend at Suzuka, so maybe a little bit more drivers will finish the classification, but in saying that, it's not as though Suzuka doesn't bring its own challenges that Bathurst perhaps doesn't. Suzuka, of course, known for its technicalities, and we've seen, George, of course, we were broadcasting in a 10-hour endurance race at Suzuka. We've seen how difficult this track can be, especially in SEC, and it will bring up some different challenges for these drivers.
You know, that's exactly it. It's going to be unforgiving, and any sort of misplacements on track will be punished hard. And those positions that you fought for when you do get over to your qualifying session, can be chucked away quite quickly at Suzuka. It's one of those circuits that we really haven't spent a lot of time on, but at the same time, these AM drivers have been preparing themselves for what they're going to slog out today. So with 2 minutes and 40 left on the clock of this free practice session, this is the last little bits of time that they're really going to be able to delve down and fine tweak their setups as we follow along with Lindell making his way out through Dunlop. I mean, the championship standings, we're going to go over those as soon as we go over onto the grid. But it is still a battle that we will see up towards the front of the pack. So first and seconds are still pretty much fighting it out in this final round, which is what we want to see here, Thomas.
Yeah, for sure. Like, these guys have a lot to prove, especially with the season coming to the end and then wanting to move up to the next level. Of course, the higher up the levels they go, the better quality of streams they get, possibly. Getting up to pro is where we really push the boundaries of what we can achieve. So, getting these guys up to that level is what they're going to be wanting to do, and we're going to be kind of not helping them along the way, but we'll definitely be putting their names out there as what we've been doing with our AM and rookie splits. And also just going to look at the standings for the moment, as we do have 1 minute 30 seconds left of free practice. Again, we're seeing names that we've seen the rest of the season up at the top. We've got Yilmaz's Ferrari doing a 2 minute 1.476. I was expecting them to go a little bit faster, but they may not be doing qualifying times yet. And the track is 30 degrees, so it's a little bit hotter than the tyres like. And of course, the engines don't run as well. Mathes is actually down in 8th place for the time being, not quite where I expected him to be. And Malotto up in 4th after a dreadful race he had at Bathurst. It's good to see him back at the top again, George.
Always love to see South African somewhere near the top of the standings, even if it is in the likes of free practice. So Sebo Malotto from Kai K doing the South Africans proud to be up there in free practice, but qualifying a completely different ball game. Like you mentioned, the times here maybe not so indicative of what the pace will be when they pull it out. With the track grip levels still set out to fast at the moment, so there's still some time to find. I like watching free practice, but at the same time I don't, because it always, it gives you sort of a false narrative to some extent of the names that are going to be there, but the parts that we do like to see is sort of relative pace. No one really running away and setting a time that's half a second faster, up at the top of the leaderboard. So, everybody adapting to the same sort of track. We want to see close qualifying times. We want to see close racing. Side-by-side action is what it's all about. And Connell, not a place really to get too much side-by-side at Suzuka.
No, you wouldn't think so, but we've seen with these drivers before, places you wouldn't expect passes being made, they've been able to slam it up the inside or even go around the outside with brave passes. So, especially with the championship on the line between Mathis and Springer, these guys, I mean, there's nothing left. This is the last race of their season in this championship. So, really, I mean, if you're not committing 100%, if you're not giving 110% effort, you are just wasting your time realistically, and that's the mentality these drivers will be having here. As we see, look at the gap there from the top five within half a second, and then a further 6/10. As we see Mathis, he now makes it a top 6 within half a second, and then a further 6/10 back to Gaio in 7th. So yeah, as you said, George, really difficult, and difficult for the drivers too, to truly get an understanding of what their rivals are doing here in free practice. Of course, they don't know what fuel, tires, brake pad settings, anything their fellow drivers are running. So yeah, it's almost like that paranoia you get as a driver when you're sitting there in free practice and you're seeing these times go in. It's easy to almost get carried away if you're seeing someone running away with it at the top, but they could be doing a qualifying setup while you're running the race setup. So very difficult to tell. But now in qualifying, the gloves are off. Everyone will find out their true one lap pace here.
Indeed, they will. 15 minutes for them to go out and set themselves a competitive lap time. And we'll see cars and drivers getting themselves out of the pits nice and early on. The likes of Yilmaz in that number 5 Ferrari. He's going to be chasing down the back of Mathis in that number 6 Wind Porsche as they make their way out through the S's. And nice little bit of space between them in the qualifying session. No one wanting to put unnecessary pressure on each other, knowing that, when it comes down to setting that lap, you want to have as cleaner air as possible. The GT3 cars definitely don't follow along nicely in dirty air. So if you are tucked up behind somebody else through some of the more tricky parts of the circus, I say the circus. It hopefully won't be one of those today, but yeah, at Suzuka, you're hoping that the drivers can just all get themselves out to give themselves that fair competitive advantage. You don't want to see drivers struggling in quali, not being able to set those lap times. And Matt is out on track now, makes his way out through 200R to lead the formation away. Thomas, I like to see Porsches up at the front, especially brightly colored ones. Do you have any particular favorite cars, out on the circuit that you're going to be cheering for, just from I'm Thomas Crabb and I like this car?
Well, as a, growing up with Top Gear and, with that in mind, and with people not going for, I don't like the popular cars, people like the Porsche and the Ferrari and the Aston Martin because they're comfortable for drive and it's good for beginners, but I like giving myself a bit of a challenge, and that challenge is the Jag with Rage in the 735 car. We've seen him in all the way from Laguna Seca at the start of the championship all the way down to this point here. He has something to prove in that car, and I think he's done it very, very well, George.
Indeed he has, so we'll see how he fares on board with Mathis now, who of course will be setting our first qualifying lap for this afternoon. 3 o'clock on the clock for the in-game race session. Mathis is going to throw himself into the S's. Of course, this is a portion of the track that just requires that knife's edge balance. You want to carry as much speed as you can through, but you also don't want to find that understeer on the exit, as Matt is doing a good job to keep that car between the white lines. Through Dunlop curve he will go, and he makes his way on towards the dreaded Degners. Just a dab on the brakes, you throw it in for Degner 1, use the runoff wide, and you steer the car back in for the inside apex. Use some runoff on the outside of the exit. as you make your way now down to the hairpin. Again, a hard braking zone. A lot of the drivers adjust down their traction control one click to try and get some drive out of the exit of the hairpin, and we see that being done exactly here by Mathis. He adjusts it back up on the little toggle switch, and he'll make his way now through 200R, completely flat right-hander, before you then get down into Spoon Curve, which again is just onto the brakes for the beginning of the corner, and then it's just carrying speed on the exit. You do not want to lose the back end, and you do not want to compromise your exit for the back stretch. This is where it's all about speed and that aerodynamic balance that you put into the car. You've obviously trying to minimize drag, but at the same time have some downforce. 130R, a treacherous corner. We've seen plenty of accidents happen there before. Matthews just used some of the runoff before then slamming down the anchors for the final chicane. A lot of curbs being used here by Matthews in his Porsche. Again, trying to find as much time as possible, and it will be the final corner before we go down at the start-finish straight. Matthews will set a 200.993, just within the 201 range, and Yilmaz will not answer back quite respectfully. Just then will go up with a time that is 0.6 off the pace at 201.656.
He's done an absolutely fantastic job there to get that 2 minutes flat. I knew he had the pace in him, and even on the outlap, he looked like he was going incredibly fast. He was putting a gap to Yilmaz, who I think has now stopped off the side of the circuit and gone back to the pits. And yeah, so Yilmaz doing a slightly slower lap time, sorry, as it was in fact Mathis who's gone away. We're actually looking at Yilmaz. I was too busy looking at the timing screen to realise who was right in front of me. But yeah, Yilmaz is going to be doing all he can to make sure he can get back on top of that timing screen again. He has 10 minutes to do it, and the track not being as long as Bathurst by 2 seconds, 3 seconds, it is definitely doable. You can get a little bit of a lap time in the end. You've got to remember that the track will get more grippy the more these cars go round. So you have to make sure that you are the last person across that line with about 3 minutes, 2 minutes to go, just to make sure that you have the absolute perfect conditions. Of course, not being close to anyone near you, going back to a point George said where, the aerodynamic strain on the car when you have a car in front of you is quite bad. Watching a British GT stream the other day, I think it was Alton Park, where they had an ex-GT3 driver there. He was saying that I think the draft that you get on the car from in front of you goes up to about 1.2 to 1.5 seconds. So it's quite a big issue, and especially with the fast, long sweeping corners here at Suzuka, it is going to be an issue that they're going to see over the hour. So we might see, with the track being up at 30 degrees, some real issues with the tyres. But of course, tyres right now not being an issue, only doing 2 or 3 laps on this set, and then you throw them away and go on to the next one as we see Yilmaz come across the line again. And he goes in first place with a 2 minute flat, 0.795, Connell.
Yeah, and for Yilmaz, I mean, we've seen him be so strong throughout this series. To not be in that championship fight, it has to be a little frustrating for him. He is one of the fastest drivers out on this track, and he has been throughout the season, but to only be fourth in the championship, he is on 143 points in comparison to Mathis' 208. So yeah, it's just a little bit of inconsistency throughout this season. 1 win to his name and a pole position, and that podium as well. So struggling, of course. We've seen him have his own struggles, especially at Bathurst, where he got caught up in a big incident at the start of the race. As we've seen Mathis and Springer be a lot more consistent, but currently we're seeing in qualifying, I know it's only 7 minutes to go, the first flying laps have only really been set, but Springer 1.9 seconds off. I mean, not a great start. Might have just been a bad lap, getting held up in traffic, etc. We'll see how this session progresses for him, but you'll have to say, George, I mean, realistically, if Springer wants any chance of beating Mathis to the championship, he has to qualify at least 1 position or 2 positions behind him.
I mean, we say this a little bit, but what Springer seems to do in that V12 advantage out on track is completely different between quali and races. He has some great consistency there. You would expect him, of course, to need to be a little bit more up the field to really get the the convincing battle potential there. But just a driver that I don't think we can discount, regardless of where he starts in the field, Connell. Like he really has impressed me overall, and as has the likes of Rage when we've been able to see him in his Jaguar. Thomas's pick for today. We're going to see Yilmaz still trying to stay out on circuit, get himself into a much safer place. It's interesting that Lindell will jump himself up into second place on the timing sheet with a 2:0.822, which will send Matthews down to third place. Matthews still out on the circuit at the moment, trying to better his lap time. This one, I don't believe, will be his lap time to do it. But for now, 6 minutes left of quali. It's all about just getting yourself back to that start-finish line and giving yourself another stab at potentially finding a faster lap. 2/10 up, though, for Andrew Harvey in that number 13 AMG. He comes down into Spoon. So potentially a good lap time available to him here. Plenty of corners still to also improve on that time. We see him dip up to potentially 3/10 quicker to the middle section of Spoon, and on the exit he then loses that 10. So still 2/10 up on his time. That could potentially jump him up a position on the likes of Michael van Rooyen in that number 79 Aston Martin in front of him. Through 130R, looking very stable in the Mercedes. Onto the brakes down through the chicane. And Andrew Harvey in the number 13 trying to do his best. He has done a great job to hold on to that slight edge that he had. And through the final corner, he's going to go almost exactly even. So let's see what he will do coming over the line. He does improve his time, but it's not enough to beat the likes of Michael van Rooyen. So 2:01.371 coming out. And Thomas, the driver, is here finding some time, and we just see it being lost right at the very end.
Yeah, that chicane catches you out. We've seen it countless times over the years, especially with the Formula One Championship, in the 90s, and especially coming to the end of the 2012 and 2013 seasons, where a lot of the races were coming down to those last chicanes, and especially instants as well. So that's one thing we're going to have to watch out for in the first, second, third lap with these AM drivers. Although I will like to say that we have seen a fantastic improvement from that first race in Laguna Seca, when we were seeing instant after instant, especially coming off of the corkscrew where people were losing the rear end, to what they're doing now. Being absolutely consistent, and we know who the top guys are, and even the guys down the back, they understand how they should respect the faster drivers and how they should respect each other concerning their own speed and their own consistency.
Thomas, I have to just I've interrupted you to say that Van Rooyen was 3/10 up on his lap time according to our timing sheets, and it's all just disappeared right at the end. So if the likes of Van Rooyen can find 3/10, that might send Mathers down the order just a little bit down there. But to send you back, and you can continue on with the driving standards, I'm sorry for interjecting.
How dare you, George? That's absolutely fine. Also, I feel like I've been put into a little bit of a hole here. No one else has selected their driver, but you've already said that I've selected Rage. We have not got to the end of qualifying yet, so I will not be put into that box. But anyway, we are now looking at Marco Winkler in the Seals on Wheels number 69 car. Absolutely fantastic team name, and even more fantastic car with that colours that looks really sleek and fast. And he is fast indeed in 6th place, only 8/10 behind the leader of Yilmaz, who has done a 2:07. So extremely fast times. We see Rage in the foreground of the shot there as they come up to 130R. Probably one of the harder corners on the circuit, especially once they get into a train, which they will do, especially after the first sector. The circuit very much puts you into that situation, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you want to have an accident, which we do not want these guys to do. We want to see a good race from these guys, and we have 3 minutes left to go. So whoever's in the pits now needs to come out and make sure they can get another lap in. We're seeing times go faster and faster because the track is rubbering up even further. Now we have 2 minutes 35 seconds to go as Winkler sets another time. He is now in 4th position. I'm not sure if that changed. Yeah, I said he was 0.8 seconds behind. He's now 0.6 seconds behind, and he has got it wrong around the first corner. Let's hope we don't see him do that during the race. But of course, now we have 21 drivers, a little bit less than what we started the season off on, but it's still great to see these guys come to the end. We also want to talk about, before we go onto the grid, what positions these guys want to get to make sure they secure their positions in the championship. I think Connell had a good eye on that, but we'll go over that once the grid gets there, as we are now looking at Rage in the 735 Jaguar, looking absolutely fantastic going through the second Degner, not taking as much off the track as I was expect a faster driver to take. So possibly the Jaguar, George, not moving like he's predicting.
I'm not okay with you referring to his Jaguar as fantastic if you're not going to put yourself into the box and pick it for your favorite car. So to be honest, I think you have to really pick a side. Either it's fantastic or it's not fantastic. It's I think it's fantastic for you, and I think when I pick you a pair of shorts to wear for the day, Thomas, I'd appreciate if you wore them out.
We'll see how the end of qualifying goes, but I think he's definitely got it in, George.
Connell, can you get in here? Can you hear what Thomas is trying to do? He's just trying to pick a favorite based on qualifying position.
Yeah, how's that fence you're sitting on? Because I'm going to make my prediction now. I am going to go for a bit of an outsider. I am going to go for this guy. We haven't seen much of him throughout this season, and he hasn't really shown any true potential. But I think this is I'm going to go for Mathis, the championship leader.
Well, you know what? This is a completely new way to do things today, and I like it. It's going to put Thomas Crab on the spot, not allow him to play Switzerland for the entire duration of quali, and let him see the final order. So, for me, it's most certainly going to be the likes of Van Rooyen in that number 79 Aston Martin, currently in 5th place. That's the car that I'll be keeping an eye on, and will be a surprise pick because, of course, it's not a Porsche. So, Thomas, choose now or forever. Never predict again.
Well, I feel like I've been backed into a corner. I previously picked Yilmaz, and he let me down a little bit by being involved in that incident at T2. So as we're kind of going for the wild cards, I say wild cards, Connell went for the championship leader, and George went for a guy from South Africa. So I'm going to pick the Jag. It's going to be the Jag. I support my own messaging, and I would never hear the end of it if I didn't select the Jaguar. So there we go.
I'm not at all upset that you've chosen the car that we said you chose at the start. I mean, I feel like you tried to get yourself out of it and you haven't been able to. Mark Brown hasn't been able to get himself into that final lap there, losing it out through Spoon. Gaio in the number 119 McLaren for BJ Racing is going to be out on the circuit. He's in 17th place at the moment, potentially can better that time. We've seen him up towards the front of the order. He's 7/10ths up, coming down into the final chicane. There's a final lap attempt for him. He's 9/10ths up on the exits. He loses 2/10ths down towards the start-finish straight, and he will drag it down along the pit wall to see where he's going to jump himself up. So I believe it will be good enough to jump up 2 positions up into 15th place. So into the mid-pack he will go, and he will have to fight it out with the likes of the Czech and Silver, as they could potentially better their lap times. No, they've retired back to the pit, so they can't. And quali pretty much going to be wrapping itself up in this phase now. A lot of the cars out in the pits, as you can see, and the likes of Panizzi just wants to do a final cruise around time, get some camera time, show off that 9110 Porsche a little bit more for the stream. And I won't be mad, of course, because it is a Porsche. And there's a little bit of sadness in me knowing that I've actually sacrificed the Porsche pick for an Aston Martin for the final round here, and we will be able to now pull up the stream standings, and this is the championship standings, of course, for where we stand in the running order. So as you can see, guys, in first place, Carl Mathis leading out the championship with 208 points. Michael Springer with 197 points in second place. Nikolaj Panizzi with 174 points sits in third place. Burak Yilmaz with 143 points in fourth. Andrew Harvey with 134 points in fifth place. Sixth place for Leroy Gordon, as he sits on 131 points. Seventh for Grandmark with 116 points. Stefan Miller with 115 points in 8th place. Andy Howard in 9th place with 109 points. 10th place for Michael van Rooyen with 105, rounding out the top 10. And Thomas, do you want to take us through positions 11 to 20 at all?
Yeah, for sure. In 11th place, we have Lucas Decek with 104 points. In 12th, we have Joe Naylor with 102. So those positions all the way from around 8th to 12th and further down is really close. As 13th place, we get to Thorsten Ulrich with 97 points. And the same for Gaio. I'm really sorry for butchering your name. And 15th, there's my pick in the Jaguar, is Nicholas Rage, again with 97 points. So these three guys really have to watch their race. And in 16th is Mark Brown with 96 points. 17th is Peter Beckers with 96 points. So again, really close. Have to watch how this race is going to have to go for those guys. 18th place is Marco Winkler with 87 points. 19th place is Sebo Molotto with 79 points. In 20th is Sam Budgeon with 78 points. Sorry, I said 20th. I was supposed to say 20th. I think I did. And does Connell want to do the rest of this?
I will, surely, and just like the other standings, it is as close as the others. 21st place is Mazzo with 75 points, 2 points back. Fernando Silva in the Ferrari on 73 points. 23rd position, Jordan Booth in that beautiful McLaren, 56. Red Taylor, 54. Lindell, 52. 26th place, Nico Robin in that Mercedes AMG. He is on 50 points. 27th is Mac Conmide, excuse me if I butchered it, 49 points. Mike Chadwick in 20th position, 2 points back from him. We've got Joshua Muller in 29th position, and rounding out the top 30 on 40 points, Bartosz Chabaninski in the Ferrari 488. So we see the whole way down through the order, so many championship positions still to play for, and we're going further. 31st place, Terence Ferreira. There we go, 38 points. Seb Boss, what a name, 33 points in 32nd position. 33rd place is Huzjack with 29 points. 34th is Cheggy in the AMRV Advantage, 29 points. Fachito, he is on 23 points. He's 35th position in the stands. Jorge Villar, 36th. Liam Felton, 37th. Philip Durin, 38th. Alexander Blank, 39th. And Sam Phelps rounding out the top 40 with 3 points in the Audi R8 Evo.
Thank you very much for that, Connell. Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of drivers come through this AM Championship, and we have been left with the 21, I don't want to say best, but the 21 most preferred, I guess is the best way to say it. So yeah, 21 cars around Suzuka. It's definitely going to be an interesting race. 20 seconds left to go. The drivers have made the changes that they needed to do to the car, and you can see them coming off the jacks there as they click the drive button with 10 seconds left to go. They have to complete a full formation lap where they have to warm up their tires, warm up their brakes, making sure they're ready for that very fast and quite scary T1, especially with all the cars around you. Make sure they can get round and then complete the S's up to the Degners. Of course, all these corners are very easy to get lost traction on. You lose downforce, get hit by someone behind you or beside you. So these guys are going to have some fantastic spatial awareness. They're going to have to get their cars ready. They're going to have to be mentally ready. And of course, this race is an hour with a mandatory pit stop. So not only do they have everyone else to think about, but they have their own strategy to think about, George.
Indeed, it's a game of many factors, really. And these guys out here have to deal with all of that at the same time, and still try and pilot these GT3 cars in close proximity to one another. Of course, the formation lap, these cars are all out in single file. They are following an in-race sequence, which sort of dictates where they need to slow down, speed up, keeps the pack nice and bunched up, make sure that when everyone gets into double formation before we get down the start-finish straight, that everybody's in the correct place and that the cars are as close as they can be to one another for the rolling start. Nicholas Rage in shots, of course, at the moment. Getting some time in his Jaguars. We see, I believe, Malorto potentially getting disconnected there. Some of the weird side effects of the sim racing side of things are the way that disconnects are handled, and cars can sometimes just eject out and look like they've been sent on a moon mission or perhaps a lunar landing. To check in that number 77 Porsche, starting down in 13th place as our pack or mid-pack now making their way round through Degner 1 and then eventually Degner 2. And you go underneath the little bridge, which of course is the bridge that runs down the back stretch. So Suzuka, one of the only figure of 8 tracks that we still see good old GT3 racing and Formula 1 at. And one of my favorite circuits in the calendar. It really does dictate man or mouse in the situations of where you need to either be 100% committed or you're going to be timid, and that's where you lose out. So it is a circuit that you need to be confident on. You need to be committed to your defensive lines, and if you are going to be on the attack, you're going to have to make sure you do so fairly. So Connell, as we come around to Spoon now, we're hoping for a clean start all round, and then of course the pit stops are going to potentially change some running orders, guys getting to undercut and overcut. Talking about pit strategies, we'll do so a little bit later, but I think that for the moment, it's all about that mental space, right?
For sure, especially for the championship contenders. Of course, Springer qualifying just a little bit further back to Mathis, 3rd and 9th. Those are the two guys that we need to watch out for this championship battle. 11 points separates them in the championship standings. That means if Springer wins this race, Mathis needs to finish 3rd or 2nd. So if Mathis is 4th or lower, Springer wins the championship. If he finishes 4th, Springer wins the championship by 1 point. So it really is on a knife edge still, this championship, all to play for. But yes, exactly, strategy going to be very, very crucial to this race. We know this track is very difficult on tires. Fortunately for these drivers though, Thomas, track conditions down to 19 degrees track temperature.
Yeah, that was something I was going to put to you. Like, what setup changes would you make? Of course, these drivers will have to increase their tire pressures to make sure they're equal when it goes down. And the temperature is only going to get lower, as we've just seen. It's now 18 degrees, but we're about to go green. As the time gets further and further on, it's going to get darker and darker. As Yilmaz hasn't got his lights on yet, which might make him get hit in the future, but we're getting closer to that green light and we're waiting for it, and there we are, the green. You see the 5 green lights go up there as the guy waves the flag, as we actually see Lindell go on the outside as Yilmaz pushes it right up on the inside. It gets some absolutely fantastic speed as Mathez, I think, absolutely gets rid of the Winkler behind him, making sure he cuts him off. Everyone else behind seems to be going either 2 by 2 or in a single file. As I said, Sector 1 does make you go in this kind of train, and you either get in it or you're out of it, and you get people passing you, as I think we actually see Ponizzi attacking Winkler from the rear, as we have a Porsche train in third, 4th and 5th. Because Porsche is not the best around here, as we're seeing Lindell in 2nd place, but he's actually being attacked by Mathez in the number 6 as they come up to the first Degner, but he's going to have the inside as they actually go for that, and he hits the outside curb wrongly, and he goes to the 2nd Degner, but he's on the grass. This is going to put his tyres in a worse condition, and he loses 3-4 positions there, so that is not great for Lindell. It's probably the best performance we've seen out of him so far, George.
You know, coming onto that inside line through the Degners, your car is not even near operating temperature. We've seen in the background of that shot, well, not really on the stream, but I saw a bit of controversy coming into the hairpin in the background. Michael Springer, of course, our championship contender, who was running in 9th place, down to 18th now after having a little ballet session out at the hairpin. Going through 200R, he's going to have to try and chase down a bunch of cars now to get himself up the order, and that is not what Michael Springer wanted coming into the start of this race. It's been an absolute incredibly good start, bar that hairpin from everybody. I mean, curve 1 and 2 were incredibly clean. Van Rooyen now looks to make up a place as he was defending on the defensive. Lindell to rage onto the braking zone, though, into the hairpin, or into the chicane, should I say. It will be rage on the inside line of that Jaguar, going to force Rage out wide. Rage then going to be under attack from the likes of Andrew Harvey as well. So within the top 10, fighting it out down the start-finish straight, Lindell is trying his best to hold off the likes of Rage and Harvey. If he can just do this for a little bit longer, he will buy time to ensure that Aston Martin keeps the Jaguar busy, and Harvey will get the move done, will slot himself through, and will take the position ahead of the Jaguar of Rage.
Yeah, and very, very crucially, look at the 18th position on the standings on your left-hand side of your screen. Springer, one of our championship contenders, he is in 18th, so he is at a disaster of a first lap. There he is. He's made his way up to 16th now, so he's starting to make ground, but this has been an absolutely disastrous first lap, and not what he needs for his championship. What he cannot afford right now is to get caught up in someone else's accident or another accident while trying to pass someone here in the mad rush to gain positions and try and claw his way back up to the sharp end. Mathis in second, Springer in 16th. An absolute disaster for Springer. As we see cars going left and right into the gravel and everything, that is one of the Aston Martins as well. So Springer not having a great start to this race. Championship battle going down to the wire in the last race of the season, and you get taken out or you get caught up in an incident or you make a mistake yourself in the first lap. It just really messes with your mental state. He just needs to compose himself here and start making his way up through the order. The only thing now really you would hope for if you're in Springer's situation is that Mathis has some form of incident himself, Thomas.
Yeah, there's not much more you can do. Like, Springer is going backwards as Mathis is only going forwards. He only has a Mathis, Yilmaz ahead of him now to get himself in the lead of this race. And if he wins it to top off the championship, then, you know, then nothing is more perfect for Mathis. But we want to see that battle between Springer. Are we going to see a Brazil situation? Who are we going to call Glock? I don't know, but we're going to find out. We still have 55 minutes left to go, as we actually see Springer getting really frustrated behind this Porsche, but the Porsche is so quick in a straight line and off the corner, as we actually see the snake on the main straight trying to get him off the rear, but that only slowed down Howard even further as Springer goes right up the inside, and it almost slows him down enough for the Ferrari to get in position. Surprised that Ferrari didn't go for the move as they were coming out of the hairpin. We did see Springer hit the rear of Howard, but the Ferrari was coming up on the outside and he didn't quite have the momentum to get past him, so that was really lucky for Springer. As we actually see a Porsche up front, I think that might be Becker's, who is not having the best time. So this is another guy in front of Springer that he has to overtake to make a position up. I was going to say maybe he should come into the pits, but if he has the pace to get himself up from 18th position so far up to 14th, then maybe he has the pace to keep it going, as we actually now bring it to Michael Van Rooyen in the number 79 Aston Martin, the newer version, not the 2013 V12 that we see Springer in. Absolutely fantastic car, fantastic sound, as he actually is now being attacked by Panizzi, I believe that is, or is that's Winkler? That's what the Winkler colours, sorry, in the number 69. So I'm not quite sure what happened, being that Winkler is now behind Van Rooyen, so we're waiting for the split timing to come up to see that position change. But of course that Porsche is going to be faster, being that he did qualify up higher, so we're waiting for the move now as they come up towards the back straight up to 130R, looks up towards the glass as the Aston Martin perfectly gets him off. That was an absolutely fantastic defensive line from that Aston Martin. I absolutely love to see that move, so subtle yet very effective, as they come up towards the very last corners, that chicane. Like we said, we were going to see a lot of issues, but we haven't seen an issue so far, George, and it's been an extremely clean race. I'm really excited for the next 50 minutes.
It has been an extremely clean race so far, and you know, we saw that incident do the hairpin. We didn't quite see it. We know that a couple of cars were caught up in it, but all the rest of this arm split doing a great job out on the field to make sure that they stay competitive. Van Rooyen is going to keep his hands, or have his hands kept full with the likes of Winkler as they make their way through the S's. Lindell and Harby are close behind, able to potentially get themselves into this action if Van Rooyen has to get hard onto the defensive. But for the moment, coming through Dunlop, Van Rooyen has got himself a couple of car lengths off. That's the pressure that you want to relieve yourself as you come through into the Degner. It's not a place you want to be fighting side by side. And a beautiful camera shot as well just captures that angle of attack of all those GT3 cars as they make their way through Degner 1. And it will be a good job from Van Rooyen. He was under pressure from Winkler, who is clearly off the pace. Coming into the hairpin, potentially going a little bit deep, is going to allow Winkler back onto the back end. And in the background of that shot will be the likes of Lindell and Harby to continue the chase down. Lovely back-facing cam here as we get to see the rear wing from the KK Porsche. That's going to allow us the front view of the number 69 Porsche of Winkler coming through Spoon. You can just see everybody following identical lines through, and it's no harm, no foul, nobody losing out.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely fantastic work by these guys. And one thing I really need to point out before we move on to anything else is that Matez in the number 6, the championship leading car, is now in first place. He has overtaken Yilmaz. We haven't quite seen that on stream, but that is an overtake that has happened. So Yilmaz now has a lot of work to do to keep himself close to that Porsche. The Porsche, as we've said in the rest of the races, being extremely fast vehicles, as we actually see Winkler going for the overtake around the outside coming into the first corner, but I don't think it's quite going to happen. He actually pushes himself back in, tries to see if he can get the nose in for the second corner, but doesn't quite happen. Van Rooyen is making that car look extremely stable. I'm not quite sure if that is setup or driving ability, but that car is absolutely planted to the ground, a complete opposite to the Porsche. You know, that those differences are giving those their own speed. And absolutely fantastic. As we actually look on the track map on the right hand side, we do see a car that had stopped still for a second there, and it had been given it the yellow flag. As we see Van Rooyen go completely wide at what corner is that? I do have a track map. That is at the Dunlop corner. I will learn these names of the corners one day. He gets it completely wrong and lets the Porsche by, and he now is attacked by Harby in the number 13 Mercedes. Harby is a guy that we haven't talked about a lot throughout the entire season, but he's definitely been there in the top 10 throughout the whole season so far. So he's been working really hard, keeping his nose clean, hasn't been getting into incidents, and we were seeing that strongly in the Bathurst race. And I wonder what else we can see from him in the future. But as the race gets darker, Connell, how do you think these drivers are going to cope with a decreasing visual range?
Yeah, I think these guys will be well versed in this up until this point. I mean, getting a couple of races experience in this league has got them their racecraft bumped up a little, and then I'm sure that they will have tried out the beautiful night races in ACC. If not, it might be a little different, but honestly, at this point, having done free practice qualifying, God knows how many laps in your own personal practice, I think you should be okay with your track knowledge enough to the point where you're able to drive in the night with no further complications. But really impressed with how Mathis is hanging on here. He's really just trying to stretch Yilmaz. Yilmaz has a 2.8 second lead over that's Panizzi, and now we see Springer trying to claw those positions back, just putting pressure now on Mark Brown of Tortoiseshell Racing. Well, Tortoiseshell Racing, it looked like a bit of a tortoise there down that straight, because Springer got a great drive through that start-finish straight and just passed him with relative ease there. That big vantage really putting his advantage to good use. And now he is chasing down Dijak to get into the top 10. So Springer already making up serious ground. Of course, he was in 18th on the very first lap. So Michael Springer really making good moves, but unfortunately it might be a case of too little too late, George.
I don't think it's time to call that lady has sung for Michael Springer, as his Jaguar sings out here at Suzuka. That V12 screams, should I say, not even sings, as he makes his way down through Degner 2, making his way through the order and the sorry, it's a V12 Aston Martin, not a Jaguar. I made a mistake on that one, but yeah, the V12 screams down. Springer needs to make his way through. I mean, he didn't have the best of qualifyings to start himself up in the order, and it unfortunately meant that he was down in 9th place before the incident took place. So he's only 2 places off where he started, and there's still 48 minutes left of racing. But Yilmaz, who was our race leader, is now fighting out with the likes of Mikolaj Panizzi in the 910 Porsche, because Mathias is our new race leader in that Porsche. Yilmaz now either has to put that head down, get himself onto the back of Mathias, or he is going to continue to have the pressure from the likes of Panizzi. We've seen what Panizzi has done before, Thomas.
Yeah, Panizzi is a guy that you don't want to count out because he definitely has the pace. Not so consistent when it comes to keeping on circuit sometimes, but he's definitely up there. As we actually see Malotto, who lost connection on the formation lap, bringing it back up the track. So we have a lot of kind of last to first challenges going on today. Reminded me very much of that Jardiere incident that we had at the Porsche Cup race when he spun himself out on the last corner of the formation lap and practically had to start from last and ends up in first place. So being that Springer is now pretty much halfway up the grid, I'm kind of expecting something of the same thing, which is probably not what I should be doing, but it would be absolutely fantastic to see, as we actually see Malotto doing the same kind of thing. You know, starting from the pit lane as well, you do lose around 15 to 20 seconds trying to catch up to the pack. So he's already gained that time in 14 minutes, and now he's making his way up. It's absolutely fantastic to see. Of course, not quite what he wanted, but I'm glad he has decided to come back and give it the best effort he can, because that is exactly what we want to see. We do this for our pleasure and enjoyment. There's no money in it. There's only pride and, you know, what you want to be doing with this hobby of ours. So for him to come back and put in the time is absolutely fantastic. As we actually see Gordon in the 169 Bentley, the Boatley, as many people favourably call it. It's an absolutely huge vehicle, not quite as huge as the BMW, but we don't have any BMWs here, so it is the biggest vehicle on track. Coming close to my choice, the 735 of Rage. Rage bringing himself up positions. I think he started in 10th, 11th, somewhere around there. So, oh no, in fact, I think he was 8th. I can't remember. But he has indeed brought himself up positions, and I think Gordon has also brought himself up as well. So this battle is going to be absolutely fantastic. The battle of the unused cars are put at the Bentley, being used mostly for endurance races, has an absolutely fantastic fuel tank and tyre wear usage. But of course, this isn't an endurance race. This is a sprint race, as people will call it. In British GT, this would be a sprint. An hour-long race is a sprint. As we come up to nearly 7:25 in the evening, the light has gone down quite a lot. We're expecting, especially that Jaguar has a couple of extra lights on the front that we're going to have to see him use as we actually go back to the front, the pointy end of the grid, with Yilmaz in second place. Matez already pulled a nearly 5-second gap on the guy in second place, as we have the two Porsches behind getting really, really close now. I think the Porsche is actually being a little oversteery, putting less pressure on the front tyres. And I think that scrubbing we can hear from the number 5 is what is the issue with the slightly more stable cars around this circuit, is you're going to burn out those front tyres faster than you are the Porsches. And I think soon we're going to see a Porsche 1-2-3, George.
I mean, I will not be sad to see that. Potentially, if Panizzi and Winkler can work together here, we have seen how that car at the front of the pack can be a little bit compromised in having to defend against two cars trying to find their way past. So potentially, a Porsche 1-2-3 will not be sad to see that at all. And for now, it looks like, Connell, the driving out on track is just really delivering what we wanted it to deliver. It's that clean driving, the respectful driving, and it's been a great watch so far.
Yeah, and I think you had alluded to it earlier. Of course, we started the season off Laguna Spa, and we've seen a lot of incidents in the early stages this season, and I think it was to be expected. I mean, this is the AM class, and we have drivers who are really relatively inexperienced when it comes to this sim, and this sim with the level of detail, it is difficult to get adapted to it to its full potential. It's one thing to go quick over the course of a hot lap, it's another thing to string it out over a race and to be able to run those hot laps consistently, or that hot pace over the course of an hour. So these drivers really starting to get dialed into it, and we're seeing the rate of progression in their racecraft and their driving so far, because we had many incidents earlier on in the season that really we were commentating over, and quite easily avoidable, George, some of the incidents that we've seen just with a bit more racecraft. And it's a great honor to watch these guys have progressed so much.
Yeah, it's all about that improvement and that progression that the drivers show. I mean, doing these alternate championships where it's not just the pro splits being streamed. We had the likes of Rookie, Silver, as well as all being broadcast out for the whole season. And it's interesting to see just how unique our field of drivers is. And I think that one thing that can be said, for all the drivers that showed up to every race and made sure that they were putting the time and effort in, they showed that improvement that you want to see. And I think that's what's so rewarding about sim racing at the end of the day, is that you can really just find something that you can throw yourself into, and there's plenty of information all around that can give you a slight advantage over those that are not seeking the same sort of information.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to point our attention to something else very quickly. I haven't talked about strategy yet. It's my favorite thing to talk about. I love talking about strategy. I've been trying to tone it down a little bit, but we were watching that battle.
It's all that motorsport manager, isn't it, Thomas?
It is indeed. I do play a lot of motorsport manager. I get a lot of stick for it, but it's a very good game, and it was on sale the other day, so I encourage everyone to go and pick it up. I'm not sponsored by them. Anyway, Rage in the 7th place, and Gordon was in 8th place, but Gordon has taken the decision to go in for his mandatory pit stop. So what is the mandatory pit stop, you are asking? The mandatory pit stop is to stop in your box, take at least 1 litre of fuel, no tyres, nothing else is needed. So it's a very short pit stop. It just adds a little bit of strategy without slowing you down too much. Of course, you can take tyres if you so wish, and more fuel if you so wish, but it will lose you a lot of time. So these drivers will be running on the same tyres, hopefully, for the entire race, and the same fuel as they started off on. And that will give them the best result possible. As we go back to Yilmaz, as he is still being attacked by the 910 Porsche of Panizzi.
Panizzi is not letting off of this battle. He's spotted that there's a chink in the armor of the number 5 Ferrari. He hasn't been able to run away at all since Panizzi's stuck onto the back end, and I think Miklaj is going to just keep on throwing in the same sort of pressure, knowing that out at Suzuka, putting that onto drivers, forcing them to make the error is really what you want to do. That's really where you're going to get the moves done. As soon as they miss a braking point or they too slow onto that loud pedal, means that you're going to get yourself into that advantageous position. And Winkler and Van Rooyen are also still within this front running pack as they make their way down the back stretch now. The onboard from Panizzi here, we see him not quite in the slipstream of Yilmaz, a little bit further off than we've seen him potentially on previous laps, but at the same time, it's all about that consistency, and if Panizzi can just consistently keep Yilmaz at bay, that's going to allow Mathias to keep extending the gap that he needs to get. I mean, he's 4.4 seconds ahead of Yilmaz at this point, and with the championship at his disposal, I mean, he's leading the race, he's leading the championship, is Mathias, and he knows that his biggest championship rival, the other protagonist in the situation, would be the likes of Springer down in 9th place. So Mathias doing everything right, needing to do what he needs to do. And Mark Brown from Tortoise Shell Racing in 11th place wants to try and get into that top 10 of the Czech, but is going to feel the pressure of Silver here to try and take away his 11th place spot, Connell.
Yeah, and Panizzi right now will really be thinking what could have been a bit more consistency throughout the season. He is only 23 points off Springer, and a further, he's 35 points off Mathis. So, I mean, it does sound like a lot, but it was 58 points for a win in this series. It's really, really, I mean, 35 points isn't a big deal. And Panizzi, we've seen the potential that he has had so far this season, just not being able to string it together over the 60 minutes, over the duration of the race. So very unfortunate for Panizzi. But again, this is why the AM class is here. This is the learning curve. It's one thing I think we've experienced in our time in real life, George, with our racing. One thing to race and do a sprint race. Once you finish the race, you pack up, you go home, you forget about it. The next race, you're wiping the slate clean. It's another thing to string out over a season, have to be consistent, have to perform week in, week out, defending, attacking against X, Y, and Z, and fighting for those championship positions while you're driving. You're doing the maths in your head, or bad maths in my case, in my head, whenever I'm fighting for a championship. Yeah, so it's a totally different aspect. So that's one of the benefits of this series.
Yeah, for sure.
Indeed.
And I'm going to continue, George, if you don't mind. And yeah, just pointing on what kind of Cole said, I'm really glad that we've utilised the international continental GT tracks, because they have a lot of differences compared to what is in the European tracks in the base game. You know, with Kyalami being such a kind of difficult circuit to get some drivers' heads around, there's such a difference between, you know, Misano and that track and Spa and Kalami, and you know, once you're playing in the base game tracks, they tend to have the same kind of flow, they have the same theme, the cars react in the same way, whereas these tracks are very different. And to bring it, you know, further across the world, and you know, do Laguna, do Suzuka, do Kalami, they give such a different flavor. And to see these guys consistently perform at that higher level of the AM, whilst trying out these new tracks that a lot of us haven't given as much time as we would do to say when the game originally came out, when it was a bit more you know, fresh, and you have that new game smell to it and you want to be racing it more often. That doesn't happen so much when a new DLC comes out. So, you know, for those guys to be putting in the times that they did was absolutely fantastic, George.
Yeah, it's all about really putting in the time in the seat, right? And really putting in the laps that are important. If you're out on track practicing without making any progress through it, you're just going to sit back and waste your time in doing so. So it has to be beneficial lap practice out on the circuit. It can't just be the one sort of commitment. So that is something that all these drivers have been doing in the background of us actually being able to broadcast their races, and it really goes a long way in showing just how much time and effort has gone in. You know, at a time I would look at this right now and not really even, you know, question whether this was not a pro split, bar the lap times that the drivers throw down, which separates them in terms of pace. You know, the racecraft and the level of racing that we're getting to see is getting to that level that you want to see on a broadcasted stream. And right now, Mark Brown and the likes of Fernando Silva are, you know, what would be a little train of Ferraris chasing down that Porsche of the Czech, the number 77. But Brown has just been leading Silva here the last couple of laps. We've been able to watch it, and it's lap after lap after lap. Brown putting his car in the right place. Silva not being able to find a nose pass, but trying to do so safely. And this is the battle we want to see. And Yilmaz, we don't want to see that. Contact coming out. Yilmaz going to hit in with Benitzi. A little contact coming through on the exit. We're going to be able to get a little action-packed replay. We've said this before, and maybe just talking a little bit too early about movements, but it's not a 2x2 wide corner, and there wasn't a lot of space there for Benitzi with Yilmaz. The stewards, you know, we have those to look into incidents, but that's going to impact both drivers. Yilmaz going to drop down to 6th here, Connell. Benitzi showing up in 4th place, so he managed to rejoin the circuit with Harvey between him, and we've just seen Harvey now.
That's Harvey, and Yilmaz getting into it. Yilmaz hit Harvey from the rear at the hairpin on the exit of the hairpin. Yilmaz being really desperate to get on that power, maybe showing a little bit of the red mist and spinning Harvey. Harvey will really not be happy with that. That incident, Panizzi, Yilmaz, very, very unfortunate. And I think race direction and the stewards will have a lot of work to do here over this just half a lap. It's really exploded. We were talking about how great these guys were driving in the first 10, 15, almost 20 minutes there. And now as we approach halfway into this race, a little bit of red mist there between Yilmaz and Panizzi. Unfortunately, I mean, Panizzi was trying to keep his momentum. It's very, very difficult. As you were saying, George, very difficult to go too wide through the spoon curve, or through the S's, excuse me. And it generally does lead to very, very tight or even incident. So, yeah, as we saying, incidents happen there. And as promoted, Marco Winkler to second position. Seals on Wheels, what a great team name. Van Rooyen now in third. But it comes back to the point where the race isn't over until it is over. Because we've talked about now with Springer's incident, he is currently in ninth position. Springer's incident in the first lap, and Mathis taking the lead. I mean, you would suspect that is championship over. But at the same time, Mathis could be involved in an equally damaging incident, or even more of a damaging incident, with than the Yilmaz Panizzi incident, and that could ruin his race. He might have to take another pit stop for repairs. Springer could be making his way up through the order, and then it's just a whole different ball game. So really, I mean, Mathis cannot afford any relaxation at the minute for these next 32 minutes, because anything can and normally, Thomas, will happen.
Yeah, these guys are really going to have to take it easy if they're going to want to get to the end without taking any damage repairs, as you were saying. But we're seeing, the Yilmaz incident. I'm going to put my 2 cents on that as well. I think there was definitely enough room for, kind of 1.25 Porsches there. So, of course, the Porsche trying to take more speed in to get into the next corner, and kind of lose sight of where the front of your car is and where the end of their car is, and you end up in a bit of an instant. Yilmaz again hitting that, or as you actually see the 64 Ferrari getting very close to Brown. Brown probably being in the most racy parts of the circuit so far. He seems to be in a battle every time we look at him. So he's probably having the race of his life and absolutely enjoying this. Half an hour has probably felt like 5 minutes. So absolutely fantastic work by him. And of course, not actually having an incident. But of course, yeah, Yilmaz hitting Harvey afterwards is kind of getting frustration, as you said, Cole, seeing the red mist and hitting the rear of that Mercedes, and Harvey is now a little further down than he wants to be, and of course taking his mandatory pit stop to get rid of any damage that he has. And we actually see Yilmaz doing the same. He has now just come into the pits, and I think that was a very smart move. The cars behind him of Winkler, Van Rooyen and Panizzi actually being faster than Yilmaz. Yilmaz was doing an absolutely fantastic job to defend his position, but it wasn't going to last forever, and these things kind of implode in the end, as we have seen. So Yilmaz doing the best thing and coming into the pits and getting that damage repaired, as we actually see Brown getting ever closer to Cech in the number 77 Porsche. Of course, again, the two kind of very different ethos of driving style. You've got the oversteery Porsche compared to the very stable Ferrari. Of course, both very different ways of getting their speed, and a track like Suzuka very much makes it equalized, especially with the long straights and the long twisting corners, high and low speed, as we come up to the Dunlop corner here. I love this splitter cam. You see the lights working their absolute magic on the road. You see the rubber that has been placed down as we now reach the halfway mark, as we hear from the race director, Mark Brown, using all of the outside of the second Degner, as I love to see the drivers making sure they use the correct lines to actually see him actually go a little bit wide there, but this might give him a little more speed coming out. But of course, this battle, I think, is loosening itself up a little bit as we get close to the half an hour mark. So with half an hour done, we have quite a highlight reel on our hands. What do we expect is going to happen next, George?
I mean, we see Mark Brown, as I get the handover, going and doing a little bit of oversteer in his very not so stable Ferrari at this point. But yeah, Spoon can do that to you and unsettles the car. Brown going to lose some pace over onto that chase towards the Czech. but it will allow the likes of Gaio and Robin to potentially now get a little bit closer to him. Like we've said, one small mistake here and make that 2 mistakes from Brown. Does run quite wide to 130R. Doesn't lose too much time, manages to get himself back on the racetrack, but you can just see sort of that mental aspect there, I guess, where you've made a small mistake, you're then coming into a highly critical part of the corner, like 130R, you don't have the same confidence level coming in, and you maybe run it a little bit wide. There go Robin. He's going to feel some pressure from the likes of Tebo Maloto. A battle between manufacturers, and again we see Brown with another mistake, and it's mistake after mistake, and he is going to lose it on as he comes down through first and second curve. That's going to promote both of the Mercedes through the curves, and it is going to allow Robin now to try and get himself away from the likes of Maloto. I love to see guys battling out throughout the order, and that's what these guys are doing just here. So to touch back on the question that Thomas Crab has posed towards me, what can we expect in the next 30 minutes of racing? Obviously, our top 10 or top 11 drivers here have not jumped in to serve their mandatory stops. 13th and 16th, the likes of Beckers and Gaio also having to go in and serve those mandatory stops. So potentially a bad pit stop comes out and may ruin someone's strategy out on the racetrack. Not something that we want to see, but it is always a bit of a risk out on the circuit. But I would like to say that we just get to continue to see this kind of racing. You know, it's all about these individual stories, the individual drivers that have all put that time and effort in, and putting in a great show means that we get to have some great racing, and it's like hanging out with your friends, getting to watch a race, and everybody is as pitched up in their best racing suits.
Yeah, for sure, George. It's pick your favorite drink and sit back with us and watch this fantastic race unfold. It's been, as you said, half an hour, and we haven't really had to use too much filler. There's been lots of battles going on track so far. It's been absolutely fantastic following each individual driver, and it's such a shame to see Brown, sorry, that was absolutely wrong. Brown make so many mistakes. We were seeing him in the battles and not really making any at all, and then for all of a sudden in half a lap make 2 mistakes is not what we want to be seeing, and his consistency is going downhill a bit. Of course, that might be happening with the track temperature going down. It's now 2 degrees less than what we started off on, as we actually see Gordon, the highest placed car who has completed his mandatory pit stop in the 169 Boatley, is now trying to overtake Howard in the 299 Porsche car. Howard, we've seen kind of holding up a few drivers, but his consistency means that they kind of stay behind. Suzuka is not a circuit that you can just overtake willy-nilly whenever you want, not like Spa. It's very much a track where you have to wait for your opportunity, and that is something that we didn't see so much from Izzy, let's say, as we had the S's incident as we come up to the Dunlop corner now, heading onto the Degner. It's probably my favourite section of the circuit. You are riding very much on the edge of cohesion as you throw the car into the first and second Degner. The second Degner is where I normally get my my off tracks. It's very easy to go very wide there, hit the gravel on the outside, and that is where you get it as they come up to the hairpin. It looks like the Porsche has got a slightly wider line than the Bentley. You see him kind of coming up behind the Porsche, and he's not really hidden by it at all because it is so large as they come up now towards 200R. A very nice fast right-hander here. It's just a complete flat. People call it a straight, but it of course is not. It is very much a corner, but it is flat out. As we actually see the Porsche get it a little bit wrong there, and he goes off to the inside, and the Porsche managed to bring it to the outside, hits his apex. He now has some speed, but he gets onto the power too early, and he loses the rear end, Connell.
Yeah, and that is nature of the beast at that long, almost double apex corner, spoon curve. Very, very loose, low grip around there, and you can easily lose the rear. And in the Porsche that is, let's say, nervous on the rear, it can happen quite easily. But Leroy Gordon is currently in quite a good position here. We've had Van Rooyen retire from this race. I believe we've had Yilmaz retire from this race too. And if we go to the championship standings, before this race, we have Leroy Gordon 6th place in this championship, 3 points off Andrew Horby, who we've seen get caught up in that incident with Yilmaz. Yilmaz 4th position in the championship on 143 points. So he is 12 points ahead of Leroy Gordon. Of course, we suspect he's not actually finishing this race. So Leroy Gordon could actually jump 2 positions in this championship as we get to the final race of the season. So from 6th to 4th in the last round, that would be a good progression. I would be happy with that, George.
Absolutely, we'd be happy with that. And of course, because Gordon has served that mandatory stop here as well, he's doing a good job at putting in some pressure, as we will see a little bit of the 119 McLaren on the stream for a bit, sitting in 15th place. Gaio doing a good job at the moment, hasn't served that pit stop that he needs to serve though, which means that unfortunately he is also going to drop a couple of positions out. All the cars around him, both in front and behind him, have served those mandatory stops. So it will be interesting to see how Gaio approaches this now. I mean, you wouldn't really... Is he trying to just extend things out with a bit of a longer sprint? But I'm not quite sure. We see an ever important drive-through penalty flag being picked up next to Springer's name. Of course, Springer going to jump into the pits to serve that now. Yo, that's not what Springer needs, especially in his hunt down for Matthes in the championship. And Matthes saying that will be smiling away, Thomas.
Yeah, that is an absolutely unbelievable thing to happen. With 20 minutes to go, Springer has a drive through penalty. He's still possibly and hopefully going to come out in front of Gordon, who is the first driver to complete, the furthest driver ahead who has completed his mandatory pit stop already. Not quite sure where he is. Is that Gordon coming up behind? That is in fact Gordon coming straight up behind, but of course, luckily the pit lane exit is not that far from the first corner, so Springer has all it to do again. He is very far behind Robin in the 111 Mercedes, and of course now he has to keep Gordon behind him. His tyres will be a little bit cooler, his brakes will be a little bit cooler, and his mental state will be a little bit in tatters, as he really didn't want that penalty. I wonder if he did get that round the Degners like I suggested. It's not too much else you can get it. You can get it around 130R, and you can get it at the chicane, and he was putting in some blistering lap times and absolutely on the edge, so that can happen very easily. Drive-throughs here are easily to collect, as I saw a while ago when I did the 12 hours of Suzuka as a steward. It's something that happened quite often, as Springer actually has his indicator on. I'm not sure quite why he's doing that. Might be giving the Bentley a little false sense of security in an overtake, but he has now since turned it off, as we see Gordon kind of push that Boatley to the ragged edge. I'm going to stop calling it Boatley soon, possibly after this stream, so I apologise, but I like calling it the Boatley, as Gordon, the 169, is pushing that car to the limits, pushing it to the edges of adhesion, and there's not much more he can do to get it closer to Springer. Springer looks like he has put a lot more effort into his setup this race than we've seen for the rest of the season. I think he realizes what is on the line as he continues to go faster and faster, and even with Gordon in the slipstream, Springer is getting away. So that's an absolutely fantastic work that he's done to that car to make it run that well. Of course, might be why we've seen him get a drive-through, is he's running less downforce. But on the Yilmaz leaving, I really wasn't expecting that. Yilmaz is kind of typical of a guy to continue on the race, but maybe he kind of lost it a little bit with the first incident. I don't quite believe was completely his fault or the Porsche's fault. I think it was a racing incident. Both thought they had the room that they did not have, but I would have liked to have seen him continue on. He was in a favorable position, you know, especially with Malotto coming from last place to bring it up the grid. So I would have hoped someone like Yilmaz would have continued on going, put the points on the table. But of course, as you said, Connell, that will bring some drivers up for our final standing. Of course, the leader possibly getting the championship winner, possibly getting a little certificate we've been talking about, so that would be great to give it to the winner. And of course, Matthes being nearly 7.5 seconds faster than Winkler with a Porsche 123, George.
I do like to see that the Porsches have got themselves up into that 1, 2, 3 position, of course. But the battle with Gordon and Springer, I mean, it's not really even a battle that Gordon needs to worry about, because Springer's going to have to go in and serve that mandatory stop at this point. So for Michael Springer, it's not a great place to be, having the likes of Gordon putting pressure on, knowing that he's already been into the pit stop. So any sort of mistake that you make, you're then holding up someone that is on a completely different race strategy. And Springer doesn't want to allow the likes of Gordon past, because as you can see, Gordon has the pace to hold on to the likes of Springer. So if he can find a way past, then that Bentley will then further impede Springer's progress. And Springer knows this. He's coming down towards 130R now. He's got 18 minutes left of the race. He needs to decide when he's going to serve that mandatory stop. He sees that the whole of the field in front of them trying to go for a little bit of a longer stint might give him a sort of inkling to, you know, jump into the pits sooner rather than later. But for now, he's going to stay out on circuit, hold down 8th place, and continue to stick it to the likes of Gordon in that Bentley, not allowing him to get himself close enough to get past. But it is certainly there enough to, or certainly enough to keep him, you know, not being amused. You know, he's got a hindrance in the mirrors, Connell.
Yeah, a hindrance is probably the best way to describe it, especially with that big old Bentley in his rear view, taking up pretty much all of the rear view mirror. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Of course, Springer has already been in pit lane. That wasn't for the mandatory pit stop. That was for a drive-through penalty. And if you're new here, a drive-through penalty does not clear the mandatory pit stop. So Springer has already served his drive-through penalty, and now he's going to have to go back into the pit lane and serve his mandatory pit stop. So bit of a disaster here for Springer. And Panizzi, third in the championship. If Springer has any more incidents or any more time penalties added to him, Panizzi not a million miles off Springer in the championship standings. I mean, it is a long way back, you would think. It is 23 points is the gap. But if Springer keeps having a race the way he's having, with the bad luck and mistakes that he's been making, Panizzi could find himself really capitalizing on a bad race by Springer. Really unusual mistakes. We seen Springer at Bathurst and the car. I mean, it just looked like it was on rails. He just looked like it was easy for him. Everyone else was making mistakes around him, and Springer looked like he was just having a Sunday cruise, Thomas.
Yeah, it's the same kind of situation we were seeing him in at Spa, kind of with that. Well, I think it was 2 laps or 1 lap left to go, and he pretty much got the win. As we actually see a battle now for 6th place, with Robin up on the inside and Czech around the outside, and that was a really clean and easy overtake for the number 111 of Robin. As we actually see Springer complete his mandatory pit stop, so we're going to see him drop further down the order. Not quite that we wanted to see. I wanted to see a championship battle down to the wire, but as this race is going on, you're clean in the first half now, but with crunch time, with half an hour left of the championship, you know, drivers are pushing the cars to the limit with their tires a little bit worn, their you know, mental state a little bit worn, their brakes a little bit worn. So yeah, you know, you're going to end up finding mistakes as we go up to the Degners. I keep saying it, you know, like everyone knows what I'm talking about, but of course they don't actually need to speak the words. As we continue with checking the number 77 Absolute Racing Porsche coming up to the hairpin, the slowest part of the circuit, as we actually watch Robin get a little bit wrong, as Matez is now also in the pits. So if Winkler doesn't take his pit stop this lap, he is going to be the provisional leader, which will be great for him, because I don't think he's had many laps out in first place. Of course, he is a very fast driver, but he's never quite been in position to put himself in the lead. So it's going to be great for his self-confidence, and especially with that open air in front of him, it's going to be absolutely fantastic to make him push harder. Nothing makes you push harder than that number 1 in the top left corner, as Panizzi also gets past. So even with that little incident with Yilmaz, who has of course retired from the race, he is now in second as Matez makes his way out of the pit stop. You see the lovely glowing red exhaust, the thing that makes this car scream then nothing sounds better than the 2018 or 2019, I think it's 2018 version of the Porsche, as we actually see the one of the Mercedes in the foreground coming into the S's sector. As we see Matez, the guy who's been leading the race so far, enter this section. This is like watching a pro in the making. I would love to see him climb further up the ladder. Of course, first season times will be quite spread out, as we have seen so far, but now that we have these guys' times and their attitude and their consistency towards our series, we can start putting them properly into our other series. So from next season on, depending on whatever that is, we can see even closer championships. Obviously, see the Mercedes that we saw earlier get it completely wrong and go into the gravel. As we actually see, I believe that's Madzo, one of the guys that we were seeing further down the grid earlier in the race, now in fourth position, either due to incidents around him and to people pitting. He still needs to make his pit. So a great race so far from Madzo, George.
That's been a great race so far, and just needs to make sure that the closing 13 minutes go the same way. Of course, having to serve that mandatory stop, Madzo knows that he's not on the same strategy as Math is here, and I quite like that that he didn't quite have the exit out of Spoon either. He saw the Porsche coming through, and will just move to the right side on the exit to allow Mathis to get by, making sure that he's not going to impact a guy who is certainly already served that pit stop and wants to try and get his way towards the front of the order. It is the championship leader as well, so we see all these guys fighting it out for the points on track, but still having some of that mentality in mind. And we see Madzo actually going into the pits as we come around the final corner with Mathis. So again, it goes along the same sort of train of thought. Madzo, bad exit. The guy that is approaching me as the championship leader has served the pits. I'm going to be going in and serving my pit stop. There's no point in trying to fight out on a bad corner exit. So Mathis will make up a position based on driver needing to serve his pit stop, which will probably be the case for all the positions coming through, unless some incredible pace can now come out from the likes of Winkler and Panizzi to better themselves. Lucas Decek in that number 77 Porsche is going to have, it's not the pressure of anyone for position. That will be Gaio coming past to unlap himself, I believe. He's already served his pit stop and he's looking to better himself. So Gaio in 16th place is going to come past on the check, but it will allow the likes of the check here to just again focus on his own race. He doesn't need to fight anyone else other than himself at this point, and during these positions it's all about just finding that settle in place. The last 10 minutes of these races can become quite difficult based on your tire choices, and I believe everyone would be running their single tire set for this race. And if you are, and you have been pushing it out on the circuit, that final 10 minutes, Connell, with a used set of tires, that can be funsies.
Yeah, it can indeed. And drivers with a very, how should we say, a loose driving style or a loose setup, like to get a little bit sideways or a little bit out of shape, don't mind the car moving a little bit underneath them, will find that they will have a lot more movement than they originally anticipated with these worn tires. So can catch you out very easily. And a track like this where you're changing direction over and over and you're committing to corners like this, 130 hours, we have Dicek being passed now by what a maneuver. It's almost pushing Dicek out over the track limits. That was Silva in 17th position, regaining and unlapping himself. So Dicek really struggling a little bit right now for pace. But yeah, as we were saying, there are a lot of changes of direction, a lot of long corners that you're on. You're pushing the tires down into the tarmac, and 130R being an example of that. Really does destroy the tires here. Tire preservation, very, very key for a good race. Even though it's only an hour, we've seen people do double stints in endurance races and stuff here, but their pace dramatically dropped off. It was off a cliff, those tires. So hopefully none of these drivers experience that sort of drop off in their tires. One thing that will be helping them, of course, as we alluded to near the start of the race, was the 17-degree track temperature. track grip optimum, less spinning than if the track grip was obviously less. And track temperature is relatively cool, so pretty good. Almost perfect conditions for tire conservation around this track. It can get very, very difficult around here. But at the same time, Thomas, I mean, an hour at any track on this sort of pace will destroy tires.
Yeah, for sure, and especially looking at someone like Gao in the number 119 Mercedes McLaren. With damage as well, that will only make it worse. And especially with some of these guys at the front, as we actually looking at check earlier, he had damage to his rear, and that definitely will not help him with his tires at all, especially watching these cars oversteer through the first sector and especially into the faster corners. It definitely is not going to help, as my car, I would like to say, Rage in the 735 has not completed his pit stop, but he is in second place. I think the highest position he has been in provisionally whole of the season. So absolutely fantastic job. He's actually now in first. Fantastic work there by Nicholas Rage. He is going to have to, of course, bring it into the pits with 8 minutes to go. So he's probably going to have to come in this or the next lap. Of course, you want to pit with more than 5 minutes to go so you can complete any penalties if you do have one. Because, of course, if you are smacked with a penalty and you hit the checkered flag, then you are punished even further. So that is not what you want, as we listen to the fantastic sounding V8 through the Dunlop corner, coming up to the Dunlop corners as we now ride on board. Very kind of shoddily done heads up display there. Or the MFD, I can't remember what they call it. I'm just going to call it a HUD, as it was kind of hastily put together by the team back in 2013. I was watching a documentary about this vehicle not too long ago, and it was absolutely fantastic to see, as you can hear the car scrubbing very violently throughout the hairpin. So, George, where would you place the chances of Rage once he makes his pit stop?
I mean, he's had a great battle out on the circuit at the moment. I mean, what a phenomenal race coming out in his Jaguar, and most certainly he's been that one driver that has just caught our eye, stream in, stream out. He's always put a car that really shouldn't have been as competitive right towards the end of the top of the field. So potentially going to find himself maybe slotting in behind the likes of Winkler or Gordon, just in front of Gordon, perhaps. Panizzi, I don't know. This battle on track between the likes of Panizzi and Winkler, that could really impact where Rage comes out, because Rage has got free open air at this point on the circuits, and these two are fighting it out for position. They're going to cost themselves some time. So this could be an absolute interesting scenario with 6 minutes to go for sure, because we don't have too many close battles out on track, as we see Panizzi actually skipping through the final chicane, and he's not going to be given an immediate drive-through penalty for track limits. That's obviously governed in by the sim. You are given some penalties, etc. But yeah, it could be an interesting scenario, I believe, for Rage, who is our lone driver yet to complete that mandatory stop. Lindell and Malorto, they've been, again, two drivers out on circuit for what feels like an eternity, and not quite swap positions back and forth. But as Lindell messes up the exit out through Spoon, he's going to be a couple car lengths off from heating up that battle. But good job from both Mercedes boys to hold it in the top 10. And if you look at the timing sheet, from 6th to 10th place is dominated by Mercedes. And then we've got from 2nd to 4th provisionally, obviously, until Rage has served that pit stop, you've got the Porsche boys going out at it. So Carl Matthews, who should be our race leader in that green Porsche, will now round it out through 200R Connell.
Yeah, and what a race and what a season that Mathis has had. Hasn't gone all his own way. He's had a few instances, but when you think of who is going to progress to the pro races, you look at the guy like Mathis, the way he's able to get to the front and just pick his way up, not really be impatient, not make silly errors, rush into the front of the field, but just picks his way through, gets to the front of the field, and then just stretches that lead and just consistently putting lap after lap down that opens up that lead. So very impressive throughout this season from Mathis. He is the class act of this field. He's a very deserved champion if things stay the way they look like they're going. Springer put up a great fight this season in the relatively unfancied Aston Martin, although Springer has done phenomenally in it. Obviously, his standout drive for me was Bathurst a fortnight ago. He looked phenomenal. Just didn't put a wheel wrong, as I was saying earlier. Just one of the most consistent drives I've seen from anybody in this AM Class series. So Springer is another guy who I look forward to seeing in pro races in the future. Guys like Panizzi, Winkler, Gordon, Harvey, and of course Yilmaz. We've got Dicek as well. A lot of potential in these drivers. Maybe just need to sort of polish the edges a little bit and become a more well-rounded driver. But a lot of potential for sure in this AM series, and it's great to see. These guys will be very soon, I think, Thomas, pushing the established guys in the pro class.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that we've all been kind of pushing throughout the entire season. It's great for us to put on these live streams for everyone watching, and of course these drivers will probably go back and watch it as well. It's nothing better than watching yourself on TV, seeing how your racecraft works out, as we actually see the two Porsches battling out towards the front. But yeah, what we want to be doing is we don't want to keep these guys here. We want to make sure that they are continuing with their kind of sim racing quote racing careers unquote, and continue up the RCI ladder. And you know, of course, putting them up here can give them lots of opportunities in different racing series. As we actually see Winkler in the number 69 get ever closer. The Seals on Wheels car has been extremely fast, has been faster than the 910 for most of the race, so I expect him to be putting a good show on here as he actually gives him a little love tap as they come side by side up to 130R, and Winkler realizes he's a bit lost here. He does have another lap, I think. He does indeed. I didn't hear the last lap call, but sometimes it doesn't quite give you it. So they are coming up to what I believe might be the last lap of the race. So he does have 3 sectors to make his moves. He has the Degner sections to put up on the inside and get Panizzi out of place. He has the hairpin, a harsh braking zone to make sure he gets them out of place. He has spin to make sure he can get that apex, push the car in front of him a little bit wide. And of course, he has 130R and he has the last chicane and that exit to make sure he can get to where he needs to go. Do you think he can do it, Connell?
With the way he is driving currently, you'd have to say yes, he's really putting the pressure on. And it's hard to defend here. But again, as we were saying, Suzuka, it is a difficult place to pass. We know the caliber of Panizzi, but we also know that Panizzi has been error prone throughout the season. Giving him a little flash there. I don't know why you're flashing a driver who is defending position on the final lap. Maybe a little bit of psychology there, but strange choice for Winkler. Winkler, really, you'd have to say now he's 2 or 3 passing points left, and here is one of them. So he's going to have to focus on getting a good exit out of here. He doesn't quite get the exit. Panizzi gets a great drive out of that corner, and that defends a little bit into the spoon curve. He's got to focus now solely, Panizzi, on his own drive. Can't be too focused on going defensive. He's losing time here if he does go defensive, and he doesn't. He takes his normal racing line, but Winkler closes right up to the back of him. It is going to be crucial now for Panizzi to get a great drive out of here, but Winkler has the benefit of slipstream, and he's tucked right into that slipstream. The number 69 car drafting in behind him. You don't think he's going to be close enough. Panizzi now cuts the inside. Does he? No, he doesn't. Winkler goes to the inside, but he's not close enough. It is going to have to be a last lap, last corner.
No, this is the last lap. It's going to be the last lap indeed. Matthews is going to cross the line. You're 100% right. Panizzi here has done what he needs to do. And Winkler, he's going to go very deep down into the chicane. He's made a mistake through there. Panizzi will get the drive that he needs to get out there. And what a drive coming out from the Porsche battle in for 2nd and 3rd place. Panizzi going to cross the line, take home 2nd behind the likes of Carl Matthews in 1st. And Mikolaj Panizzi doing a great job to get 2nd. Winkler will grab 3rd place there. And it will be Rage in that Jaguar to come round the line to take home 4th place. So I believe, Thomas, does that make Matthews our championship winner as well?
It does indeed. He needed a. If it was to go the other way, he needs to finish 4th with Springer finishing in 1st. So winning with Springer down 11th place, Mathes is our ICGT AM Championship winner, George.
Absolutely what you want to see. We're going to see Gordon wrapping up with 5th place, Harvey taking home 6th, Madzo in 7th, Linda on the 8th, Malorto within the top 10 with 9th, and Robin going to wrap up that top 10. And it was a great drive coming out from all these drivers down to the top 10. Actually, I could say it all the way down the order. All the drivers that managed to finish out on circuits. A final round finish, which means that the championship gets wrapped up tonight. And it's always with a bit of sadness that you have to announce that, you know, it's the championship complete, but you have to make room for, you know, more series and more events. And all these drivers coming out today have really gone to show us that, you know, they're committed to the sim racing side of things. And being in the AM split, they're not far behind in seeding times to the likes of the pros, and it will be interesting to see. I think, you know, Connell and you, Thomas, have both talked about that promotion sort of phase and where these guys then integrate into the names that we've seen here, or familiar names that we've seen up in the pro splits.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely fantastic work for all these guys just showing up all the way to the end of the season. I mean, that is pretty much rounding off, as you said, our season. And yeah, absolutely fantastic to do the entire season with George and being joined by Connell, who's done an absolutely fantastic job with us, of course, having some of that real life experience that has really helped us out because we don't really have much of that. We have the sim experience, but not much else. So thank you very much for joining us. We have been RCI. This has been the ICGT Championship. We have the winner, which is Matez. He is the ICGT champion, and he'll be celebrating with a couple of drinks, maybe even a shoe if we can get him to record that. So thank you so much for joining us. We have the final round of the Rookie Championship of the Silver and as well for next week on YouTube. So please join us then. Of course, we have other races on YouTube as well. So hopefully we'll be seeing you back soon. Thank you very much for joining us, and see you next time.